الصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعد محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters, once again. Today we're once again for the third session, inshallah, of our Searah, and we will continue where we had left. Last session we talked about that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam became a complete orphan when he lost his mother in the 6th year of his life, and from the 6th to the 8th year his care was taken up by his old and frail granddad Abdul Muttalib. He was very old, he had hardly any eyesight, and he was very respected, very elderly, very respected, but did not have much in the sense of wealth with him. He used to love Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it's mentioned that he was the only one, that is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the only one who was allowed to come near him in the Darul Nadwa, where he used to sit, and he would climb over him. And his own sons would say to him, "You don't allow us to come near you, but yet you allow Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam." And he would say to them, "He is my beloved one." But it only took 2 years for him to pass away as well. And by the age of 8, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was going to be destined to be the Rahmatul lil Alameen, the mercy to all mankind, was in a situation where he was in desperate need of mercy himself. In a society which we have discussed and described in the past 2 sessions, did not have anything to offer to anybody who was weak, whether that be an orphan, whether that be a woman or a slave. That society was where Prophet ﷺ was left with absolutely no guardian, no parents, no support system. And at that time, he had one of the richest person as his uncles, Abu Lahab. But Abu Lahab refused to take care of Prophet ﷺ. But it was the kind and generous-hearted Abu Talib who said, "Yes, I will take care of Muhammad ﷺ." So he went into the care of his loving and caring uncle, Abu Talib. So with Abu Talib, Prophet ﷺ obviously moved into his house, stayed with him, lived with him, and he began to learn the art of living in that society. And it is mentioned that he took him once on a caravan, and there are some stories about him seeing a monk over there, which I do not think is very authentic, so we will not talk about that part of it. But Prophet ﷺ was quite eager to learn, to know, to explore. And in his very early age, the earliest of teenagers, he said to his uncle that, "I will help out. I don't want to just sit down and be a burden on you. I want to help out." So he used to help out by tending the sheep and camel and the cattle of Abu Talib. And in return, obviously, he will get some money for that. And also he was within the house and he was living with them and he was being cared as one of the family members. So he continued to live with Abu Talib and he continued to see the society very closely. And he also came to know that this society, if you do not have a proper support system in place, you are the weakest person and you're left in a very, very vulnerable situation. This is the reason why when he was only 16 years of age, he not only offered, but he joined a group which was called as Hilf al-Fudul. He was only 16 at that time. And the Hilf al-Fudul was brought about by a few kind-hearted people in Makkah, along with some youngsters, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam took pledge in that Hilf al-Fudul, the pledge of the goodness, the treaty of the goodness. And once again, if we go back in a few sessions, we talked about that Makkah was a society which was based on tribal allegiance and tribal system and tribal setups, where if you did not have the backing of your tribe, you were nobody. And we talked about the 3 big markets that used to take place in Makkah, and people used to come and trade from all parts. So the people who were non-Makkans that used to come to Makkah, sometimes some of the Makkans would take their goods away. They would buy goods from them, take that away without paying the cost, without paying the price for that. And these people were left with no one to support because it was the might is right and my brother right or wrong situation in all the tribal systems. That if somebody would take that away, the tribe would not go against their own person. They would rather go against the person who was a businessman, had come to sell. So these businessmen were left with absolutely nothing. And Makkah used to get a very bad name because of this as well. So these people formed to say, well, we are going to form the support structure of those people who come from outside, sell their goods, and then we will guarantee that they will get the price, the money back. So that was Hilf al-Fudul that came in, and such was the importance of that system. In that very vulnerable situation, a person who was put in that position that he's got huge amounts of money, huge amounts of wealth, he's brought stuff for that, he's selling the stuff for that, giving up to the people, and he's left with absolutely nothing to go back to his family. It's a very, very tricky situation for that individual. So Prophet ﷺ mentioned when he was a prophet, when he was given prophethood, ultimately after 40s, he mentioned when he was a prophet that even today, as a messenger, as a prophet of Allah, if I am called towards something like Hilf al-Fudul, I would be the first person to take it up. I would be the first person to join that, because that treaty of the good was an amazing treaty, which Rasulullah ﷺ was proud of. And alhamdulillah, thankful to Allah that he was part and parcel of that treaty at a very young age, when he was only 16 years of age, alhamdulillah. So with that, Prophet ﷺ developed a network, if you like, of people who were good. Very few and far in between, unfortunately, in that society, but there were some good people, and he did develop that network, that connection, and he came to know about other people as well. Then at the age of 18, when he was 18, Prophet ﷺ asked Abu Talib if he could marry his daughter, Fakhta, who later on came to be known as Hani, because she was the mother of Hani, and she's well known in the history as Hani. But when Prophet ﷺ was 18, he liked her, and he said to Abu Talib, can I marry your daughter, Fakhta? And Abu Talib said no. He said no, and the accounts say that although Fakhta was not in a position where no proposals had come for her, but Prophet ﷺ was told that a proposal has already come, and the proposal has been accepted of a poet. And as I mentioned, in that society, very few people knew how to read and write. In fact, it's mentioned only about 11 people knew how to read and write properly in that society. And this was a prize catch for anybody, for Abu Talib to look at this individual as somebody who was rich, from a good family, reputed family, wealthy, with family background, and a poet. So he seemed to be an obvious choice for Fakhta, instead of an orphan child who is practically being raised by Abu Talib himself and is working as a shepherd for him. So he did not seem to be the obvious choice. This incident had a profound effect on Prophet ﷺ. He came to realize that even those people, not just the whole society, not just the social setup in the society, but even the most loving and caring uncle could not see him as an equal, did not see him as an equal to other people. So he was discriminated once again in that situation. After that, Prophet ﷺ decided to look outside, to see what else he can do for himself, to stand up on his own feet. He worked for other people, and people used to give him their possessions, leave their possessions with him. And these are the formative years where from 18 to 22, he earned that amazing name of Al-Amin, the most trustworthy person, the most honest person, the most dependable person in Makkah. And people would, vie with one another to try and get him to do some job for them, if they had to do some job, and to keep their stuff with Prophet ﷺ, if they wanted to leave some stuff with anybody, if they wanted somebody to look after their possessions. The one man in Makkah was Muhammad ﷺ. That's how he earned his name, Al-Amin, the most trustworthy and the most honorable, the most respected person in that society. And when he was 22 or 23, at that time, the word obviously had got out, everybody knew. At that time, there was a lady in Makkah, very rich by inheritance, because her father was a very rich man and he had left a lot of money for her, and also because she became a widow of an individual who was a very rich person as well. She lived in one of the posh areas of Makkah, if you can describe areas of Makkah in those senses, because there were 3-story houses in that area, whereas only a single-story houses in the other parts. That's where she lived. And she heard about Prophet ﷺ. Her name was Khadija. And Khadija, the most important individual in the life of Muhammad ﷺ, she came to know about Prophet ﷺ. She was in desperate need of an individual who would take care of the business, the wealth, which had been bequeathed to her from 2 sides, husband as well as father. And she was really in need of somebody like Muhammad ﷺ. And this is where, for the first time in their lives, Khadija and Muhammad ﷺ came into contact. And inshallah, in our next session, we will pick up the seerah from the time, how they met, what they discussed, what Prophet ﷺ did, and how they went on to become the most loving and caring couple, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.